What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This week we got the last pay-per-view of the year, UFC 323, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. Awesome main event. Without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the full card predictions. Pretty good card to cap off the year. Starting with the early prelim of Naimov versus Santos. Now, I think this fight is a little bit closer than the odds may suggest. Santos, right around a minus 250 favorite over Naimov, where Naimov, he has a decent win over Nathaniel Wood, which was controversial. Cheated a little bit with the glove grabbing and stuff like that. The ref didn't call it. We know the deal with that fight, but overall, Naimov, decent counter striking, okay grappling ability. We did see him get submitted by Felipe Lima, but Felipe Lima is an absolute stud. We know the skill set of Lima. Naimov kind of got tired in that fight, where his gas tank has been a little bit of a concern throughout his career. He has gotten tired, where he's not getting easy victories over, Jamie Malarkey, Eric Silva. These are easy wins for him. I like the win over Bogdan Grad, who's a great grappler, heavy pressure style, decent unorthodox striking on the feet. Naimov showed some improvements in that fight, specifically with his cardio, and he might be a decent underdog here to Santos, where I think that Santos clearly lost to Francis Marshall in his last fight. That wasn't his last fight, second to last fight. He had a good win over Sadiq Yusuff, but I think Sadiq Yusuff, is kind of past it at this point. Good striking from Santos, extreme couture guy, good cardio, front kicks up the middle, calf kicks, decent overall striking skill set. He can be a fight finisher at times. Common opponent between the two. Santos easily KO'd Khan Offley to be able to win the Ultimate Fighter. Naimov, took him to a kind of competitive decision where he got the job done, but still left a little bit on the table. I'm actually going to pick Naimov here. I think he's going to have the grappling edge. I don't think the striking is really going to be, too far apart. I don't think that Santos is all that great. Looked good against Yusuff, but Yusuff very inaccurate, relies on his athleticism. Unless Santos pushes a heavy pace, which I don't expect him to do, he tends to be a pretty, composed, calculated striker, really doesn't throw that much volume. I think that Naimov's going to win this fight. Grappling edge, a little more experience, higher fight IQ, and I think on the feet, they're going to be just as fast as each other. Santos is probably going to have the technique advantage, but I think Naimov can pull this one off by decision. Next fight on the card, we have, come on, what are we doing here? Antonio Trocoli is going to get fucking steamrolled by Mansur Abdul Malik. Round 1 TKO for Abdul Malik. Nasty power in his hands, really good athleticism, even if he faces adversity, which it's not a good look. It's not a good look to get dropped by Nick Klein, the blue collar. But, look, Mansur Abdul Malik, natural athlete, heavy power, trains with a good gym, and Trocoli, got handled by Trayshawn Gore, easily disposed of by Shara Bullet. He's just not a good fighter, doesn't have any skill set whatsoever, really. So I'm going to take Mansur Abdul Malik. He should have been able to finish Cody Brundage. He didn't. He's going to bounce back with the round 1 TKO here. Big TKO for Malik. All right, next fight on the card, we got Iwo Baraniewski versus Ibo Aslan. Baraniewski got a nasty TKO win over the Brazilian Muhammad Ali. Ibo Aslan, been in the UFC for a little bit, had a good win in his debut over Trocoli, where he faced a little bit of adversity, showed that he had decent cardio, his power would carry late, got a round 3 TKO there over Trocoli. Easily destroyed Rafael Kakera, but we know Kakera just is not a good fighter. He's dropped 2 since then, Ion, and who did he lose to last time? Billy Elikana. I don't hate the losses, more UFC experience on the side of Ibo Aslan here. Was not very aggressive in his last fight, which is how he has fought in the past. Even on his Contender Series fight, got a knockout there. Baraniewski has some judo background, just from me looking into him when he fought on the Contender Series. Judo background a little bit, and he's able to use it some in MMA on the regional scene. But what really stands out is the big KO power, which we saw on the Contender Series. Good right hand, counter shots, short reach, kind of a stocky fighter for the light heavyweight division, but definitely has a good overhand knockout ability. Both of these guys are fight finishers. I think that we see Ibo Aslan come out here a little bit more aggressive than he was in his last fight. I think he knows that it's going to, he's going to need to put more output on the table and be more aggressive, more than he was so last time. And I think that Ion Cutelaba is probably a little bit more polished than Baraniewski. I'm going to pick Ibo Aslan here to get a round 2 TKO. I think that we might be overvaluing, the win over a BJJ guy by TKO. He was getting touched up a little bit in that fight. Ibo Aslan was doing good against Cutelaba until he wasn't. And Cutelaba, he's a difficult matchup. Just, power, super unorthodox, explosive. He's a difficult matchup. I think that Ibo Aslan is the better striker overall here. Training at Extreme Couture for this camp. Has went to Dagestan a little bit to prepare. And I'm also just kind of not trusting the regional scene experience. And, I'm not going to overvalue one TKO on the Contender Series. So give me Ibo Aslan. Two big underdogs to start the card. Mansur Abdul Malik's like -1,000. So we already know he's going to win. Next fight on the card. Edson Barboza versus Jalen Turner. Great fight here. Edson Barboza, he's just not in his prime anymore. We know the skill set that he does possess. Some of the best kicks in UFC history. Finishes, all 3 levels, leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks, spinning attacks. Just excellent kicking arsenal from Edson Barboza. Really good clinch game. And he did show a little bit of improvement in some of the fights that he was winning before he kind of went on this skid, against Sadiq Youssef, Shane Burgos. Showed some improvements with his grappling and his hands in those fights, but at the end of the day, that's where he really does struggle. The grappling, pressure boxing. Drakkar Klose was able to win against him last time out. I was able to play Drakkar Klose there as a +110 underdog. Decent bet, and that's mainly just because Barboza's washed. I don't even rate Drakkar Klose that much. But Jalen Turner, very explosive athlete. The elephant in the room is that he's coming back from retirement, but we all knew he was going to come back. I mean, he was never going to stay gone from the sport. Only 30 years of age. And, look, I think that he's going to have every single advantage in this fight, and he's going to make it look very easy and get a round 1 finish. Jalen Turner is going to be much faster. He has much more power in his hands. I think that on the feet, tit for tat. If this was prime Barboza, we might be having a conversation, but Jalen Turner is going to be way quicker. He's going to beat him to the punch every single time. He's more durable. Even though he's had some questionable losses like to Moicano and the triangle to Bahamondes, Edson Barboza is just not really going to present any threat like that. And I think that Jalen Turner is going to have a submission advantage. He can grapple if he needs to. He took down Bahamondes. He was looking good on the feet against Bahamondes. Fast, sharp. He was dominating that fight until he, lost via triangle. Barboza really just does not have any boxing defense. I think Jalen Turner is going to be able to drop him with a clean right hand, similarly to how he did Bobby Green, and submit him with a rear naked choke as Edson Barboza tries to get back up. So yeah, give me Jalen Turner by sub here. Of course, he's coming back from retirement. He's been a little flaky at times, but this is a tailor-made matchup for him to win easily. And Barboza, even though, he's 40, he fights like he's 50 at this point. So yeah, give me Jalen Turner. This should be a very, very easy win and one of my more confident picks on the card. -250, I think Jalen Turner is going to look -600 in this fight. Bruno Ferreira versus Marvin Vettori. So yeah, round 1 sub for Turner. Marvin Vettori versus Bruno Ferreira. I like this fight here. 2 absolute blockheads in the middleweight division. Bruno Ferreira, I like his game, tight boxing, powerful hands. Not the most technical guy, but we have seen him do some good work with his counter shots, against RoboCop. Had the really good spinning elbows against Dustin Stoltzfus, who's a tough out. And he did take the loss to Magomedov, but they were, pressing a really heavy pace in that fight. Magomedov, technical grappler, he was able to get the better of that. Bruno Ferreira does have jiu-jitsu ability. I mean, we saw him submit Armin Petrosian, who is a very low-level grappler, but Ferreira was having success in that fight on the feet as well, which is what I like to see. Petrosian's a decent kickboxer overall. And I really rate the win that he had against RoboCop. Nasty TKO there. I think RoboCop's a little bit overrated, but nonetheless a very good win. The 2 losses that he took, Nursultan Rudzaboyev and, Magomedov, those are 2 decent fighters. The Rudzaboyev fight was a horrible matchup for him. I mean, he was tiny in there compared to Rudzaboyev. Marvin Vettori, going to be a little bit bigger in stature here for Marvin Vettori, but, ever since that Cannonier fight, Marvin Vettori has regressed for sure. Looked terrible in the Dolidze fight. Even though he dropped him in the second round, it looked horrible in that fight. and did not look good against Brendan Allen. Got 30-27 easy there. Marvin Vettori, I think, is going to have every physical advantage in this fight. I think he's going to be stronger in the clinch, better cardio, better chin, tougher. He's tough as nails, but he has taken a lot of damage, and he hasn't been reacting to shots as well recently, since that Jared Cannonier fight where he just got completely schooled. He is going to have the physical advantages in this fight, but I think that Bruno Ferreira is the better fighter, and I think that he has more X factor leading into this fight. I think his power is going to be better. I think his striking is a little bit more creative. All that we see from Marvin Vettori is a 1-2, and an inside leg kick. That is all he has in his game, is a 1-2 and an inside leg kick. We haven't really even seen him successfully grapple recently. I mean, who has he really out-grappled at a high level? Paulo Costa, Jack Hermanson. I kind of trust Bruno Ferreira to at least avoid the grappling, and I think on the feet, he gets the better of this. Absorbed per minute's way less. Landed per minute's not quite there for Bruno Ferreira, but I think he hits harder. I think he is probably going to be the fighter that has the ability to get cuts, have big moments, maybe win a round just via dropping Marvin Vettori. This fight's lined to pick him. I do like Bruno Ferreira here to get the job done, and I'm going to say it's a decision. I'm going to say Bruno Ferreira gets a decision based on damage here. I'm going to say he wins the first 2 rounds on the feet using, nice dirty boxing, uppercuts, elbows in close while Marvin Vettori tries to pressure him. Marvin, classic Marvin, he's going to be just doing a whole bunch of nothing on the feet, twitching, missing a 1-2, and barely landing a inside low kick. And I think Bruno's just going to have bigger moments, slamming some low kicks. Even if he's not landing super clean, I think it's just going to look better to the judges. So give me Bruno Ferreira here. I think he wins a close fight, 29-28. He'll lose the last round due to kind of getting tired, getting pushed against the fence, maybe gets taken down late. But I think he's going to have banked it already in the first 2. So yeah, Bruno Ferreira, 29-28 decision. This is an amazing fight right here. I like this fight a lot. Nazim Sadykov versus Firas Ziam. Sadykov's quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters in the game. I love his skill set. I like everything that he brings to the table. Firas Ziam is a fighter that's been improving on a fight-to-fight basis for sure. He's looked okay in his last few, but I think the performances are really overvalued. He had a whatever fight with Jai Herbert. He had a win over Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola's completely washed, and that fight was kind of going back and forth until Firas really took over in the 3rd round. Kyle Nelson did the same thing to Matt Frevola, if that puts it into perspective. So, are we really going to pick Kyle Nelson to beat Nazim Sadykov? But that's besides the point. And he fought Mike Davis in his last fight, where that's a nightmare matchup for Firas Ziam, and he really should have lost that fight, in my opinion. I think that Ziam loses that fight 9 out of 10 times to Mike Davis. But Mike Davis has been regressing. Like, his cardio issues are really bad. Was, pulling guard and going for leg locks that entire fight. Did not fight like how he normally does, Mike Davis. And just had very low fight IQ. Looked like a physical shell of himself. I don't know what was up with Mike Davis in that fight versus Firas Ziam, but I'm not going to overvalue the performance. He, had the big KO win against Frevola, like I said, but Frevola's chinny, completely washed. Ziam was getting taken down and kind of controlled in that fight. We know the loss to Terrence McKinney. Firas Ziam is, of course, his weakness is mainly going to be the grappling. I mean, we even saw Claudio Puelles take him down consistently. That was a very close fight. Puelles is a good grappler, a better grappler than Sadykov, but very unathletic, and he was able to give Firas Ziam some real issues. Nazim Sadykov, Sambo background, used to train out of K-Dojo and Serra Longo, now trains out of Syndicate MMA, but excellent boxing, really good boxing defense. Every single fight that he has is an absolute scrap, or he gets an early KO. In the Contender Series, knocked out the Afghani dude, who's a good grappler, decent fighter overall, so I rate the performance by Sadykov there. Got a nasty right hook finish, switch stance fighter, very good boxing combinations from both stances. When he's southpaw, he has a nasty left kick, all 3 levels, mainly utilizes it to the body. He can snap up question mark kicks, which are phenomenal for him. He has a ton of success with his question mark kicks, was able to finish Evan Elder as well as Ismail Bonfim with that question mark kick, coming off of a fight of the year contender against Nicholas Mota, where he took damage early, faced a lot of adversity, but he was able to weather the storm. He showed off his very good boxing defense, And after that, he just let shit fly, and he was able to get a clutch TKO against the fence, unloading a beautiful hook combination and starching Nicholas Mota. Like I said, Nazim Sadykov, every single fight that he's in is an absolute scrap. You look at the Evan Elder fight, that was a back and forth war before it ended when Sadykov got the TKO. I actually think that Sadykov was doing the better work in that fight. And Evan Elder is a great striker. TJ Dillashaw type of style, heavy body kicks, heavy pressure, good volume. Sadykov was able to kind of school him, landed some really good uppercuts in that fight. The head kick was obviously there, implemented a little bit of grappling. The Slaviklaw's performance from Sadykov was a little bit questionable, and I could see Ziam having similar kickboxing success against Sadykov here, but we know that Slaviklaw is a good striker, and in that fight, he looked way better than he really ever did in any fight in the UFC. Whether that's Sadykov's fault or not, I'm not sure, but I think Slava just had a great night that night. Was able to beat Terrence McKinney by submission, showed that he does have grappling up his sleeve, was able to weather an early storm. He has good defensive grappling. We know how dangerous McKinney is in the first round. And, Sadykov, he normally just goes for a double leg takedown, not a ton of variety on it in terms of his offensive grappling, but he's well-rounded. He has good ground and pound, and I got off topic, but in the Slaviklaw's fight, even though he did get outstruck rounds 1 and 3, almost got the finish with his pressure in the second round, timed a beautiful left hook when Slava was throwing a knee, followed up with a head kick, dominated him on the mat for the rest of the time being. And look, Firas Ziam, in terms of his striking skill set, look, he has good headshots at range. He has a lanky man's left hook to the body. The kicking game really isn't anything to write home about. I like Sadykov's kicking game a lot better. Ziam, his work in the clinch is okay. It's nothing special. He's decent at having good position against the fence, but in terms of landing damage in the clinch, I think that you instantly think back to the Frevola TKO, but that's not really something he's doing super often. Sadykov, really good off the breaks of clinches. We saw in that Nicholas Mota fight, every time they'd break off the fence. I remember after he survived that first round onslaught, landed a beautiful combination, like 1-3 uppercut, knee, and then a head kick right behind it. I mean, just gorgeous stuff from Sadykov, and then finished him with that beautiful combination off the break with the right hook to finish it. Sadykov has nasty KO power in both hands, and what's going to win him this fight, in my opinion, is going to be the pressure. Firas Ziam really hasn't fought a pressure fighter with a striking skill set to match him. Frevola's dog shit on the feet. Mike Davis fought like an idiot. And what are we looking at? A Claudio Puelles and a Jai Herbert win for Firas Ziam? Firas Ziam's resume is really, really light, in my opinion. He's beating a lot of bad fighters in fights that aren't a high pace, fights where he's not truly facing a lot of adversity. Almost got his calf torn off by Mike Davis, but not facing a lot of striking adversity. I think Sadykov's going to clip him early, make him hella uncomfortable, dig him to the body with the left kick, invest with body shots, stay defensively sound. Like I said, excellent defensive boxing, good shoulder rolls, good elbow blocks. Very hard to hit clean, and when you do hit him clean, you can have some success with the straight shots, but he has a chin on him. I mean, the dude can eat a shot. I'm not worried about Firas Ziam getting a finish here. He could offensively grapple. Firas Ziam has been showing big fight-to-fight improvements with his offensive grappling, but I don't think it's going to be a big factor in this fight. It could happen, but I don't think it's going to swing really the result. Give me Sadykov to get a round 3 TKO here. I think it's going to be a fight where both guys are going back and forth. Firas Ziam landing good headshots at range. Nazim, their names are kind of similar. Nazim, big pressure, digging to the body, left kicks to the body, trying to snap up the high kick, and eventually he's going to catch him with something clean and finish him in the third round. So give me Nazim Sadykov, the Black Wolf, to get the job done here in this one. Yeah, maybe a biased pick, but I like Sadykov's game, and I don't think that Ziam truly is that level. I don't think he's ever going to be really a contender in this division. I think that Sadykov is. Every single fight that Ziam has as well, he gets into a bad grappling position. Sadykov could definitely work the grappling offensively if he needs to. Give me Sadykov round 3 TKO. No. Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Awesome fight here. Terrence McKinney, first round finisher. Very, very dangerous, but he's a glass cannon, He can be finished quite easily. We saw Ismail Bonfim send him to the Shadow Realm. Sean Woodson send him to the Shadow Realm. Sadykov was able to get him out of there. he's lost on multiple occasions, but when he does win, last time out had a good win against Slavik, was able to beat Todorovic not too long ago. He's very dangerous early. Of course, clipped Matt Frivola, very, very fast finish there. He's got fast hands, good BJJ offensively, but the cardio is not there, the defense isn't there, and he's not very durable. And Chris Duncan's tough as fucking nails. I mean, aside from getting knocked out from Slavik and losing to Manuel Torres, who are two very dangerous fighters in their own right, Chris Duncan's just been a scrappy guy. Was able to get 2 clutch gillies against Blachowicz and Jordan Vucinic, two very dangerous fighters as well. And he has the submission. He has a reactive submission game, which could be good for him here against McKinney. McKinney, maybe he gets hurt on the feet, shoots a sloppy takedown. Chris Duncan's able to get that gilly. McKinney's flaky, so he is the type to, panic and tap to that guillotine. Chris Duncan could definitely go for it, but on the feet, I mean, he's tough as nails. We saw the win that he just had against Rebecki. They went life and death for 3 rounds. Chris Duncan, good right hand, good right kick, keeps it simple on the feet, good chin, and, solid pressure volume. He's just solid, going forward on the feet. It's nothing fancy, but he's just a gritster, and I'm going to pick Chris Duncan to win via second round TKO. Here in this one, I think that Terrence McKinney's going to dominate him in the first round and then completely fall off a cliff, and Chris Duncan's going to, just go forward with the basics, right hand, right kick, eventually hurt him and then take him down, ground and pound TKO. So yeah, give me Chris Duncan to win this one in the second round via finish. TKO finish, ground and pound. Next fight on the card, we got Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. Awesome fight here. Manuel Torres, super exciting fighter, very good Muay Thai skill set, nasty power in his hands. He did take the loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, which showed he may have some defensive, responsibility issues in terms of getting clipped with shots, but Bahamondes is a great striker. Other than that, Manuel Torres has been catching bodies, nasty TKO against Judoba last time out. We saw him take care of business against Chris Duncan, which is a great win where he showed some defensive grappling as well. Offensive grappling, got the submission. Nasty elbow win against Mota. I mean, that was just one of the craziest KOs you'll ever see. Awesome celebration. Manuel Torres is an electric finisher in the first round, but he's never been out of the first round in his entire career, which is crazy. This fight's a pretty simple one to call. Grant Dawson, excellent grappler. That's all there really is to it. Has displayed some improvements with his ground and pound. We saw the Rafa Garcia TKO, but you can never forget about performances like he had against Joe Solecki, where it's literally insomnia medicine. Knocked out by Bobby Green. That's a bad look when you're facing Manuel Torres. And look, I think Grant Dawson's a great grappler, but his takedown entries aren't that great. Well, his takedown entries are good, but they're not that athletic, and he doesn't do them too often. And you can get back up to the feet if you are athletic and have some decent defensive BJJ. You can give him some issues, and he's been having pretty easy stylistic matchups recently, and he hasn't been fighting guys that are dangerous. Beat CDF last time out, where I wasn't crazy about the performance, did barely any damage, and we saw that CDF didn't look great against Alexander Hernandez in his last fight, got knocked out there. I think this fight's going to be very similar to Sean Brady and Michael Morales, where we know that if Dawson's able to get him down, get in half guard, and work his game, he's going to win easily. If he can take him out of the first, especially take him out of the second, Torres is probably going to be gassed and not have anything in the defensive realm of grappling. But I think that Grant Dawson isn't going to get that far, and I think Torres is going to knock him out stiff in the first round. If you're getting killed by a jab by Bobby Green, I think Manuel Torres snipes you. So I think Grant Dawson, I think he's going to get scared in the moment. I think he's going to start shivering in his boots. I think he's not going to shoot a clean takedown. It might get stuffed. Even he might overthink Manuel Torres' submission win over Chris Duncan. He might be even fearing the grappling of Manuel Torres. Sometimes you fear the unknown. But what he isn't going to know is that heat is going to be coming in his direction. Give me Manuel Torres to shut the lights off of Grant Dawson. And Grant Dawson's just not a top 10 lightweight. And Manuel Torres has a high ceiling in this division. And this is just a bad matchup for Grant Dawson. Give me Torres by round 1 TKO. All right, we got Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan Guskov, I like this guy as a fighter. Big power in his hands, very dangerous. I bet him at plus money in a couple of his fights. Had him plus money against Pauga, had him plus money last time out against Nikita Krylov. He's done well by me. Jan Blachowicz, tight fight last time out versus Carlos Ulberg, where he did show that Unk still got it. He really does. Unk still got it. He had a long layoff, but we can't really hate too much on Yan. I mean, he's been fighting cream of the crop for a long time. Whenever Adesanya, we know, all of he had so many fights in the UFC before he even became a champ, but, destroyed Dominic Reyes, showed off some really good countering ability in that fight, nasty Muay Thai skills, did the same to Adesanya, mixed in the grappling a little bit, where I could see him having a grappling advantage in this fight here versus Guskov, but from what I saw in the Billy Elikana fight, Guskov's improved enough in the grappling to where that's not going to be a factor here. I think we have a stand-up fight. The leg kicks of Blachowicz are going to be big here. Blachowicz has some of the nastiest leg kicks in the sport. And, Guskov has a really wide stance. Blachowicz could definitely take advantage of that. We saw him tear up Carlos Ulberg's leg badly. So he could definitely have success there. Blachowicz is looking slow, though, in terms of the hand speed, in terms of the combination work. He has been looking slow, and I could see him slinging the, lead body kick and getting countered by a right hand from Guskov. And that's actually what I'm going to pick here. I think that Jan Blachowicz, he's great, and he showed that he still had it last time, and he's always a tough out. But, he's been in so many fights. He's slowing down physically for sure. Not looking in great condition for this fight. He's the technically better fighter. He's going to have the grappling edge, but I think the youth, the hand speed, and just the power and brute strength of Bogdan Guskov is going to give him issues in this fight. And I think Guskov is going to find a knockout. Even though Blachowicz has never been knocked out, he tends to be defensively responsible. If Beheada couldn't knock him out, it's kind of hard to pick Guskov too, but Guskov has weird power, and I think he can land on Blachowicz. So I'm going to go Guskov. Not a confident pick whatsoever. Definitely not touching this fight from a betting perspective, because Yan could school him. He could school him for 3 rounds and then get clipped at the end of it. So it's a up in the air type of fight. Hard one to call. I feel like I have a good read on most of these fights and how they're going to go, but this one is really up in the air. I'm looking forward to watching this one. Next fight on the card, we got Henry Cejudo, Triple C versus Peyton Talbott. I mean, stylistically, this is not a good matchup for Henry Cejudo. We saw that Peyton Talbott, even though he got out-grappled by Ronnie Barcelos, he was still having success late in that fight, and Peyton Talbott's a guy that's going to improve on a fight-to-fight basis. I've been saying this, before he fought Cameron Simon. There's natural talent here. He's going to improve rapidly on a fight-to-fight basis. Just complete nonchalant, natural ability on the feet. Tough as nails as well. Great pressure. Nasty counter-striking ability. Good power in his hands. Good boxing overall. Good combinations. Great right kick to the body. And he's just creative, catching leg kicks into a spinning heel kick to the head. Nice step-in knees. Peyton Talbott, he hits a flow state very easily, which is what I like to see from a fighter. Reminds me of a Conor McGregor and Max Holloway, a Volkanovski. I mean, I know I'm talking about goated fighters here, but Peyton Talbott has that level of, he hits a flow state very quickly into a fight. Even in that Felipe Lima fight where a lot of people were picking him to lose, I picked him to win that fight because all he needed was fight-to-fight improvements in the grappling, and he showed that. And he was always going to be the better striker. He's the more naturally talented fighter than Felipe Lima, and he made pretty easy work of that fight. And look, at this point, Felipe Lima is a better version of Cejudo. Cejudo has not been wrestling successfully since the Aljo fight. Merab stuffed every takedown. Song Yudong, I mean, he didn't even shoot versus Song Yudong. And if he would have taken Song Yudong down and had success with the wrestling, I probably would pick Henry Cejudo in this fight. But I think that Ronnie Barcelos is better than Cejudo at this point. I think Cejudo is more washed than Ronnie Barcelos. Barcelos is on a great 3-fight win streak over Talbott, Cody Garbrandt, and Ricky Simone. I mean, 3 fucking talented, much younger fighters than he is. I don't think Henry Cejudo, I could see Henry Cejudo losing to all 3 of those guys. If Henry loses here, I'd actually like to see Cejudo versus Garbrandt. That'd be a good fight. But look, Cejudo, he's going to be at a fucking massive size disadvantage. On the feet, he's going to get fucking schooled. And he's a fucking midget, and he's not taking Peyton Talbott down. Peyton Talbott showed all he needed to show in the last fight with the grappling improvements. Henry just is not that effective in MMA grappling. He never has been. He was able to control DJ a little bit when he was in his prime, but still just does no damage with his grappling. And Aljo out-grappled him. He had some success in that fight with his takedowns, but the control's not there. The ground and pound's not there. He had decent success with his jab from southpaw against Song Yadong, but Song Yadong's a bit of a blockhead. Nowhere near the natural striking ability of Peyton Talbott. I think Peyton Talbott finds a relatively easy round 1 or 2 TKO here over Henry Cejudo. I think he's going to style on him and make it look quite easy. And also just the mentality of Henry Cejudo. You know, he has some stuff going on in his personal life recently, you know, ever since the Merab fight. I think he really has been checked out, mainly doing it for the money. And even watching his vlogs and stuff, he's talking about, oh, you know, I don't want to train, I don't want to spar, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is his last fight. He already said he's going to retire after this one. He's already halfway checked out. Peyton Talbott, easy projection pick, and he's the much more talented fighter overall. Henry Cejudo, he's always been gritty. He's always had the wrestling upside, but, you know, the toughness, the durability, the pressure, that's really what got him far in his prime. The Morales fight, the Dominic Cruz fight, that's what really gave him success. Peyton Talbott's going to be able to weaponize that against him in this fight. So, yeah, Peyton Talbott all day for the TKO win. Nice fight here. Brandon Moreno versus Taira Taira. Interesting fight here. I'm going to pick Taira mainly just off projection. You know, I like the back-taking ability. It's hard to say, though, because Pantoja was not able to control Brandon Moreno effectively in their fight, and we know how good Pantoja is. But I think that Taira has been showing crazy fight-to-fight improvements on the feet. I think that the, you know, long, rangy strikes of Taira Taira is going to be good for him there. Here in this fight, Brandon Moreno probably going to hold the boxing advantage, but I don't like how he looked against Steve Erceg. And Erceg, similar build and stature to Taira Taira. I think we're going to see maybe shades of how I know this is a crazy fucking analogy, but how Christian Rodriguez had a very hard time fighting Julian Erosa, and also how he had a hard time fighting Andre Fili. In a similar fashion to C-Rod versus Fili and Julian Erosa, I think that Brandon Moreno is going to look kind of like how he did against Steve Garcia, struggling with the height, struggling with the straight shots of Taira Taira. Erceg may be a more naturally talented striker than Taira, but Taira hits hard, he's athletic, he's improving on a fight-to-fight basis. The threat of the takedown is going to be there. I like Brandon Moreno's championship experience, but this is a 3-rounder. 3-rounder is going to heavily favor Taira. If he gets the back, I could see him keeping it for the whole round. Then you're down 1-0 or 2-0 if he does it in the second. But also it could, you know, possibly look like the Korean Khabib versus Timmy Kwamba, where he gets the back the whole first round, kind of gasses himself out, and then gets outboxed in the second and third. Moreno is always a tough out. I don't see him getting submitted or finished here in this fight. I'm going to say Taira Taira wins a very close split decision, which is arguably a robbery. But I think I see Brandon Moreno being a little bit gun-shy here, like he was against Royval, like he was against Steve Erceg. And I think that lanky frame and the straight shots are going to give him issues, similarly to how those fights did. Taira Taira, you know, his one loss versus Royval, he was up on the cards in the first 2. Just kind of gassed out when we know that Brandon Royval has excellent cardio. If that's a 3-round fight, Taira Taira wins. And he was doing decent work on the feet there. Give me Taira Taira to win this fight against Brandon Moreno by decision. Yeah. He had a fucking close fight with Edgar Shirez, though, which is a concerning look. But I'm gonna trust in the fight-to-fight improvements from Taira. All right, we move on to the co-main event. Alessandro Pantoja versus Joshua Van. You know, one of the goated fighters of all time, Alexander Pantoja, one of the pound-for-pound best right now. Got to give him his flowers. Second best flyweight of all time. Right there behind, you know, one of the goats of the sport, Demetrius Johnson. He's beaten everybody in the division, you know, ran through the division multiple times over. And he's finally getting a fresh challenge in Joshua Van here. Stylistically, though, I don't like this for Pantoja. Joshua Van has showed incredible takedown defense, and he has the best striking landed per minute in the entire UFC. If he doesn't get subbed early, I think that Joshua Van, you know, wins this fight. You know, I actually would like this. If this, I mean, obviously he's never going to fight in a 3-rounder, but if this was 3 rounds, I think it helped Pantoja be able to not gas out with the grappling. He had really bad body language at times in that Kai Kara France fight. And, I think Joshua Van would starch Kai Kara France. The boxing offense of Joshua Van is next level, one of the best boxers in the UFC. And like I said, the takedown defense is just fucking phenomenal. Even though it's not against the level of competition as a goated fighter like Pantoja, just from the eye test, you can tell that he has the fucking skill set. And also just his stance, the way he throws his punches, it just makes it hard for grapplers. Cutting angles, making it hard to get in on a clean double or a single. Doesn't get held up against the fence much. Did really good work against Ray Cejudo. Did really good work against Cody Durden. Did fucking phenomenal work against Bruno Silva. Made it really look easy against Brandon Royval. He was never really behind in that fight. He's just been improving on a fight-to-fight basis. Nasty volume. If he hit harder, that would help him even more in this fight, but he doesn't have the KO potential here against Pantoja unless Pantoja really starts to look tired. The body language is bad. Van just unloads a combination, and we saw in the Brandon Moreno fights for Pantoja, he is there to be hit. He landed his big shots on Moreno too, but I think that Joshua Van's going to be slicker with the head movement, more sound defensively than Brandon Moreno. He's going to make it less of a scrap and more of a clean boxing match. And it's hard to outbox him, and you're never going to get ahead on the strikes. You got to outgrapple him, and you got to get him out of there early with a submission. If anybody can do it, it's Pantoja. But man, in this flyweight division, I think we see a changing of the guards here. It's just from the eye test, I know it's not a Pantoja level of fighter, but he's been making it look fucking easy against these guys, Joshua Van. And, I've picked him in most of his fights, haven't bet on him in spots that I really should have, Really should have bet him against Brandon Royval. I had a good read on that fight. He's a fucking phenomenal talent, and I think he's going to be the champ here. I think he's going to beat Pantoja. I think Pantoja gets a rematch. We'll see. But, it took Pantoja late to finish Kai Kara France. If he went out there and choked him out in the first, I'd probably still pick Pantoja. And maybe Joshua Van is still a little bit unproven once he actually gets taken down and gets mounted or gets the body triangle wrapped around him. Maybe he does get exposed there with the round 1 sub by Pantoja. But I don't really think Pantoja is going to have an easy path to a round 1 submission. I think that the gunfire coming back from Joshua Van is going to be a big time issue with him getting in close. Normally Pantoja is the guy that can kind of overwhelm you with strikes. Throw a sloppy combination, end it with a leg kick, get the body lock off of that. I think Joshua Van's going to be interrupting all of the combinations of Pantoja with mean hook combinations, angling off, making it hard for him to finish his exchanges with the takedown. And yeah, like I said, in that Kai Kara France fight, he was able to get the fight down and dominate at times, but when he would get stood up, when Kai Kara France would stand up, the body language was just not there. I did not like what I saw from Pantoja. He's getting on up there in age. He can only beat these young up-and-comers for so long. I'm going to pick Joshua Van to win this fight. And I think Tatsudo Taira might be able to beat Joshua Van when they fight for the belt. This could be a changing of the guard in flyweight. That's what I'm picking. I'm picking a changing of the guard in the flyweight division. Yeah, I think that both of the vets lose. I think Joshua Van is just that much of a talent. I think he's just a natural fucking phenom. So yeah, give me Van to win this fight. I'll pick him to win a decision here. I don't see him finishing Pantoja, but I think Pantoja is going to have early success with the grappling. And then maybe the activity, the age kind of catches up to him. The body language looks bad. And he loses the last 3 due to significant strike volume from Joshua Van. So yeah, give me Van via decision. 49-40, I'll say it's a 49-46, 48-47. All right, we move on to the main event of the evening, Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr No Mercy Yan. This is one of the most skilled matchups that can even be made in the UFC. It's a phenomenal fight. We know what happened in their first one, and we'll get to that, but Petr Yan, arguably the best striker in the UFC, in my opinion, probably the most skilled MMA fighter, just in terms of what he's capable of that we've ever seen. Just in terms of the diverse striking arsenal, he can do absolutely everything from both stances, spinning attacks, excellent boxing, the Muay Thai's on point, defense amazing, excellent boxing defense, head movements on point, tight guard, really good impenetrable guard at times, nice long guard, good ability to check kicks. The Muay Thai defense is on point. I mean, his striking skill set is just absolutely phenomenal. Offense, defense, boxing, Muay Thai. Petr Yan is just perfect. Everything he throws is perfect technique. Excellent combination work, excellent counters. Everything you could ask for in terms of a striking skill set, Petr Yan possesses. Excellent Muay Thai sweeps, judo throws. His offensive wrestling is solid. The only thing that you don't have on Petr Yan's side is a submission game. And other than that, he's one of the most skilled MMA fighters that we've ever seen grace the octagon. And every single time this dude fights, you can learn something from it. And he's just a fucking phenomenal fighter. Every single aspect of MMA. One of my favorite fighters of all time. One of the most complete fighters of all time. And if you want to be fucking honest, if you want to be completely honest, I think he's only ever lost to Merab. I think he beat Aljo. Well, he did beat Aljo the first time he knocked him out with a knee. I think he beat Aljo the second time. I think, he easily won the first, fourth, and fifth against Aljamain Sterling in their rematch. I think he got robbed in that fight. I think he got robbed versus Sean O'Malley. Most people had Petr Yan winning that fight. And aside from the fluke DQ, robbery to Sean, robbery to Aljo, he's only ever lost to Merab. And Merab made it look fucking easy because Merab's an absolute demon from hell. And you can't beat him. It's simple as that. The last person Petr Yan knocked out, Uriah Faber? He had to beat Jose Aldo's head into the canvas for 20 minutes before it finally got stopped. Petr Yan's a maestro. I mean, just fucking everything's beautiful, man. Spinning fucking back fist into a hook kick, spinning back kicks to the liver, nasty liver kick setups with the fake hook, switch stance combinations, nice inside low kick overhand combinations. I mean, there's so much to learn and adore from Petr Yan's game. It's one of the most technically sound games of all time. But let's just be real. He has to take time to make reads, and he is a slow starter. And you're done if that's you against Merab. You're fucking done. You're cooked. And it doesn't matter against Merab. All the glaze that I'm giving Petr Yan, it doesn't fucking matter. He's one of the best fighters on the roster of all time. One of the pound-for-pound greats in MMA history, in my eyes. But it doesn't matter when you're fighting the fucking machine. I mean, what are you going to do against Merab? Genuinely, what are you going to do? You can't fucking beat this dude. And like I said, in the Pantoja fight, you got to worry about the activity, the age catching up to him. Sometimes looks a little bit human. Merab never looks human. He looks like he's an EPO freak from the pits of hell. From a fucking Martian planet somewhere. He's not human. And, the grappling skill set is something that you just simply can't defend. The Sambo background has transitioned so good for MMA. Has transitioned so good to MMA for him. He even had a boxing background, and his hands have been improving. Almost knocked out Corey Sandhagen in his last fight. And I think Corey had an excellent performance in that fight where he was able to constantly get up, defend a lot of takedowns. But it's the same thing that has always happened in Merab's fights. It doesn't matter if you're Jose Aldo, one of the greatest fighters of all time, best defensive wrestling in MMA history, Jose Aldo. Okay? Merab 30-27'd him. Just smushed him up against the fucking canvas like, you were fucking cooking a damn pancake. Just smushed him. Completely made Jose Aldo look like a bug, splattered, on a fly swatter. Completely easily, controlled him. 30-27, best defensive grappler in UFC history. You can't get takedowns on him. Merab controlled him the entire time. Fights Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist, picks him up like a sack of potatoes, tosses him all over the place, makes it look easy. Petr Yan, one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters ever, 50-45s him. I'm going to try to put the clip on screen. Nobody makes Petr Yan flinch after the final fucking bell. Merab went to shake Petr Yan's hand after the fight, and Petr Yan put down 2 down blocks. He was trying to stuff a takedown after the fucking bell. Merab literally gave Petr Yan PTSD. Who gives Petr Yan PTSD? Merab is literally a fucking nightmare to have to go against. Umar beats him in the rematch, but Petr Yan ain't that guy. And he is that guy, but he's not the guy to beat Merab. And it would be too good of a comeback story for Petr Yan to starch Merab with a fucking head kick. MMA is never that kind to us. It's never that kind to us. Petr Yan's not knocking out Merab. Life's too unfair. It's too cruel. Petr Yan's not knocking out Merab. And I like both of these fighters. I mean, obviously I like Petr Yan more, but I have reason and I have logic enough to know that Merab's going to win this fight. Even though that Petr Yan had a hurt hand in the first fight, what the fuck are you going to do against 100,000 takedowns? I mean, genuinely, what are you going to do? And I'll keep, glazing Merab's resume. Sugar Sean O'Malley, former champion, one of the most dangerous strikers in bantamweight history. Schooled him twice. Umar Nurmagomedov, who is going to go down as one of the greatest fighters of all time, Umar Nurmagomedov, that is. He will only lose to Merab in his career. Merab put the fucking pace on him, and that's still a very, very close fight. If you want to be super nuanced with your scoring, you can give Umar that fight. If you want to be really nuanced and watch it very closely, but watching the fight as a whole, Merab beat Umar. He won it on the cards. On paper, Merab won that fight. And he had the better body language, and he was doing crazy work against Umar. I mean, Umar is the second best grappler in the division's history aside from Merab. And Merab was taking him down easily, just ragdolling him, just putting belt to ass to Umar fucking Nurmagomedov, who's a nightmare matchup on paper, who starts fast. He has excellent range striking game. He has better jiu-jitsu. He has the grappling to be able to match. He has the Kavkaz upbringing with the wrestling, Khabib 3.0. Merab beat him, beat Sean again, beat Corey Sandhagen, one of the most technical fighters in bantamweight history. Came in with a perfect game plan, schooled him, made it look easy. And look, Petr Yan's just not a fighter that's going to change. I mean, Petr Yan fights the same way every time. He, downloads his data. He's a slow starter, let's just be real. He lost the first round to Song, almost lost the first round to Figgy, lost the first round to McGee. He starts slow, but then he makes his reads. And, looked great. We know the uppercut selection. We know the beautiful striking. I've talked about that. He had good work with that against Deiveson Figueiredo, against Song Yudong, but he's not hitting his slick judo trips against Merab. He's just not. He's not offensively wrestling against Merab, which he needed against Song to win, which he used against Marcus McGee to win. And I didn't like the McGee performance, man. I did not like the McGee performance. I had big money on Yan there. He won. I picked him to win. And I was happy that he did win, but I didn't like the performance, Started slow, resorted to the wrestling in the third round, resorted to Merab tactics in the third round. And, the striking was good. He was landing clean shots, but the volume wasn't there. He never looked like he was going to finish that fight. And McGee, was on the back foot trying to counter. He's a striker. Yan had the wrestling advantage there. Yan starts too slow. The high guard kills him against Merab. The single, the double's there every single day of the week for Merab to just spam. He doesn't even need to get it secured. Every time he does get Petr Yan down, that's more PTSD for Petr. Petr Yan, in the Song Yudong fight, was sprawling so hard on takedowns that he was almost busting his fucking nose on the canvas. He must have been, locked in a room, like, how Yuri locks himself in a dark room. Yan must have locked himself in a dark room over in Russia and just sprawled for 10 days straight because he was sprawling like a motherfucker against Song. But I literally said, watching that fight live, I was like, damn, dude, Yan is literally fucking so petrified of takedowns from what Merab did to him. And like I said, I mean, I know it's a small thing to look at, but Merab scared Petr Yan after the fucking bell went. I mean, he fucking dominated that first fight. And like I said, stylistically, it's just a nightmare for Merab. I mean, it's a nightmare for Petr Yan, Merab is. The wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the judo, the grappling sequences that he's able to put together are just unmatched. And he can do it 100,000 times, and he never gets tired. He has the durability and the recovery of a fucking, rhinoceros on steroids. And you can't beat, 20 takedowns around. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you are, unless you catch him with a flush knee on the chin and you stain him, which isn't going to happen. He's just going to continuously mat return you, continuously take you down, continuously trip you, and you're just going to get tired and you're going to give up. And, Petr Yan's not going to be able to spinning back fist heel kick Merab after he's defended 2,000 takedowns. It's just a fact of life. I love Petr Yan as much as the next guy, but Merab is firing on all cylinders here at this point in his career. He's an undefeatable fighter, just an unbeatable fighter right now in his prime. He's about to break the record, and when he wins this, he might be the second best fighter of all time. I think that when Merab beats Petr Yan, I think he's the second best MMA fighter to ever graced the sport in terms of resume, in terms of how difficult he is to deal with. Petr Yan, Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo, Umar Nurmagomedov, Sean O'Malley twice. The only guy you can put above Dvalishvili other than John Jones is Islam, really. And I think that they're neck and neck. I think Dvalishvili and Islam are neck and neck in the GOAT conversation. And if Dvalishvili beats Umar, he's the GOAT. I'll leave it at that. If he beats Yan and Umar, he's the GOAT of the fucking sport. And he might just fucking do it easily. He's that much of a fucking machine. Give me Merab for everything. That'll be the video. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the card this weekend. Like and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment if you agree or disagree with any of my picks. And have a great rest of your day.